There is an old phrase, it's been attributed to many writers of the past, that tradition is not the veneration of ashes, but the preservation of the flame. That word, that fickle word, tradition, its messiness, its vagueness, its tricksiness, comes up a lot in the world of ceramics. And in the world of Japanese ceramics, nowhere is it more apparent than in Bizen, where pots have been made for nigh on 1,000 years. Today, the immense weight of that tradition lies squarely on the shoulders of Koichiro Isezaki. His grandfather, Yozan, was one of the key figures in the Bizen revival of the early 20th century, a maker of its famous sakumono figures and animals. His father, Jun, is a living national treasure in Bizenware, and his uncle, Mitsuru, was also a highly respected potter of tea ceremony wares. Today, the flame passes on to Kôichiro, and in his second exhibition here at the Goldmark Gallery, surrounded by these extraordinary pots, we get to see how he's kept that flame alive. Bizenware is unglazed clay that has been fired in an anagama firing, a wood firing, for many days. And it is these two qualities, the native clay of the Bizen area, this beautiful natural clay, and the fire, the kiln, the way the flame is coaxed around the pots, that give it its tremendous character, with the addition of the beautiful fly ash that lands, creates this own kind of vitrifying glaze over the surface of the pots. So you have, on the one hand, clay, and on the other, fire. And it's the interaction between these two elements that produce this beautiful work. So the Bizen potter is a kind of go-between. It's the care, the nurture, the focus that he puts into preparing, processing his clay, the way it's dug and shaped on the wheel, formed into its sculptural or vessel-like forms with the fire in mind. And then the way that he works through the firing, his understanding of the way his kiln behaves, that really creates the magic of Bizenware. In the mid-1500s, Bizen pottery became extraordinarily popular at a time of great war and strife in the country, before its unification, but also a time of great creative renaissance. Bizenware, its subtle nuances, the different colours that were coaxed out of the natural qualities of the clay, became incredibly important to the tea ceremony. For many hundreds of years after it fell out of favour, glazed works, ornamental works were more preferred. It's only in the last 100 years that the old techniques of anagama firing, the old ways of treating this clay, have been revived. And the Isezaki family, amongst a number of others in Bizen, have been absolutely central to that. If you walk through the streets of Bizen, you'll find many potteries that have preserved the revered forms of that Momoyama period, the 1500s ceramics pieces, forms that are timeless now. But with new generations of Bizen potters, a different kind of sculptural voice has begun to emerge. You only have to look at the works behind me, these extraordinary impressed vessel forms, or these strange biomorphic, almost shell-like pieces on their tripods, to see that there is a very new, fresh, contemporary voice here at play. An anagama kiln is about as simple, as rudimentary as wood-fired pottery can be. An anagama is a single chambered kiln. That means that the flame that moves through that kiln is unidirectional. You have a fire set in the firebox, and the air and the fire is drawn through that kiln in one direction out to the chimney. What that means is that every piece that is fired within the kiln itself tells a story of its placement within it, of where it's sat, of how the fire has blasted it from the front and licked around its sides and been shielded from its back. And we look at Kôichiro's work and we see a potter who understands instinctively, intuitively, that the forms he makes have to tell something of that story. There's a series of beautiful works here on these two shelves using a darker clay. And you can just see from the way that Kôichiro has worked with his kiln the beautiful effects that can be brought out from this wonderful natural clay, from this extraordinary blue colour that we've got on this beautiful tea bowl here, to the very heavy ash that's landed on pots like these, perhaps sat near side stoking holes where wood has been fed into the kiln from the side and they've landed on top, and embers and fly ash has created this wonderful pooling effect. Or in the very specific small textures, elements of surface that look like sesame seeds, or these little bead oro, these glass beads where ash has landed on the top of the pot, melted round its side and formed these glassy balls and rivulets. If you look around this exhibition, you'll see a great variety of forms that Kôichiro makes. In Bizen, you have a lot of ready-made elements there. You have this beautiful clay sitting there. You have this extraordinary repertoire of classical forms from the height of Japanese ceramics in the 1500s that have been preserved and revered over the last centuries. You have firing processes, you have preparation of clay, all these set ways of doing things. How do you do something new when the weight of this tradition is so fully around you? How do you do it when, like Kôichiro, you've grown up surrounded with it? I think to his advantage was that as a young man, having studied sculpture at university, not quite sure whether potting was in his future, Kôichiro was able to escape briefly to America. He studied and worked under Jeff Shapiro, an American potter who had worked himself under Kôichiro's father for a number of years in Japan. I think that time abroad opened Kôichiro to other kind of cultural viewpoints, to other forms of art that have informed his practice. I look at these beautiful yo forms that have been protected from the flame in a saga, so that the only colour on this beautiful clay is from the straw, these sort of hidasuki marks, this bright orange colour, the straw that it sat on. And they remind me of some of the forms in Brancusi's work. They remind me of the American-Japanese sculptor Isamu Noguchi, his famous Akari light lanterns, which you now see all over the place. In the same way that Noguchi was giving light a kind of three-dimensional body, was suffusing it with something that it could give it form, allow it to sort of float in the air. These beautiful three-dimensional forms, the way that Kôichiro is pulling at them, twisting them, folding them over. He's given this wonderful form for shadow and for colour, for volume to play around. When you look at these forms, or these egg-like forms here on this table before me here, these vases, when you see these strange, almost egg-like organic bulb forms, your hands want to move around them. They want to feel around this generous volume, this three-dimensional space that Kôichiro has created, much like the fire has moved around it, giving it this beautiful, nuanced colour and character all the way across its surface. In the world of Japanese ceramics, we talk a lot about the kind of landscape of the pot, the way that the surface of a pot changes, its volume, its shape has been moulded, is in some ways a reflection of the land from which the clay itself was claimed. We're very lucky to have had in this exhibition a beautiful ikebana arrangements made by Rie Day, which has brought the landscape to this show, brought the landscape to the pots themselves. When I look at Koichiro's work, I see this tremendous kind of fullness, this ripeness. His work is kind of bountiful, it's generous, it's like fruit, growth in the real natural world. You pick a tea bowl up, like this one here, with this wonderful elliptical kind of rhythm to it. And then you see this beautiful, very simple, very low foot ring that allows this generous form to just float on the surface it's laid. There's great pleasure in that. The same pleasure that we see in a bursting peach or something, the kind of feeling of fullness and abundance that I think Kôichiro's work has captured. He's always reminding us of a kind of life force, a kind of lively energy that fills things up around us. I think when we see forms that remind us of the natural world, remind us of its abundance, its kind of nourishment, its sort of fullness, its plentiful quality, we are in a way nourished ourselves. And I think we also subconsciously recognize when work has come from a place of nourishment, when the clay, the materials that have been used to put it together have been treated with great care and respect. And we see that abundantly in Kôichiro's work. In fact, I think that's what's most obvious in all of the work in this exhibition, is that Kôichiro is always giving us back the clay in the way that he's twisting and folding it, the way that he facets it. Pieces we see the clay torn to give us its rough edges. We see its smooth, plastic, glossy qualities. We see it torn and ragged. We see it encrusted with ash. We see it protected from the flame. This whole exhibition, all that Kôichiro does, is a celebration of the clay of Bizen. It's in that tremendous love and care for the clay and for the tradition that has brought it to him that Kôichiro is not just venerating the ashes of something that has once gone. He has taken hold of that flame. He has brought new life to Bizen ware. He's brought that sculptural, ornamental history. He's brought that functional, domestic scale together. And with these extraordinary forms, these beautiful pots, he gives us a very contemporary vision of what Bizen can offer. We've been absolutely privileged to have it here at the gallery. I hope you've enjoyed seeing it in this exhibition walkthrough.